Dear friends, this talk was developed for a series with the theme, Igniting the Change, so I decided to have some fun with it. Have you ever been badly lost in a strange place? I have. Did you start to feel desperate and want to be rescued? Here's a story for you. I took a short outdoor survival course with my grandson. The instructor began by asking, "What's the first thing to do when lost in the woods?" People said, "Build a shelter, climb a tree, look for water." None of us got it. The first thing you do is light a fire. It provides warmth, psychological comfort, and a signal to rescuers. The instructor said, "Look around. There's a lot of material here for a fire. You just need to put it together and light it." I had that lost feeling too when I visited one of the world's largest cities. I like Sao Paulo, but for a long time, as our helicopter flew over it, I could not see the edge of the city in any direction. It reminded me of a science fiction story where the surface of a planet was covered by a city, and that sent a chill up my spine. So I'm asking you, what's the first thing to do when the world has lost its way? When the mismatch of natural resources and demands continues to get worse? Find the useful ideas around you, put them together and light them to signal the way to go. Ignite a culture of sustainability. What is sustainability? It is simply using the resources we need for a good life, but leaving enough for others and for the future. This is not a new idea. As a boy, I practiced sustainability daily. We fed kitchen scraps to our chickens. I wore clothes my older brothers had outgrown. We pulled weeds in a farmer's field so he wouldn't need to spray. And with the quarter we got, we walked a mile to the store for candy. Waste not, want not was something every child knew. It was part of our culture. But what is the problem for which sustainability is the solution now? How has the world lost its way? To see the problem, let's look first at where we live. Think about Ottawa and how people here relate to our environment. We see good furniture put in the garbage rather than given to people who need it. At top left, you can see two perfectly good sofas and end tables set out for trash. We have local farmers who can't sell all their produce because supermarkets now order fruit and vegetables by the boxcar from California. There are children who have never walked in the woods. And everywhere people driving, mostly too fast. Now let's look at the really big picture, our world. Consider two global systems. The biosphere, which is the Earth's outer sphere of land, water, and air that supports all life. And humanity, which impacts the biosphere but needs it to survive. At one time, these two systems complemented each other. They were symbiotic, but humanity has become a parasite. It lives in the biosphere without making a useful return, without compensating for benefits received. How did humanity go from a symbiotic to a parasitic relationship with the biosphere? There are two main reasons. First, a tremendous increase in humanity's power based on science, engineering, and organization. And this has made the second reason possible, a world culture based on immediate wants, not on the health of the biosphere, not even on the long-term survival of humanity. But with people living in harmony with nature, humanity can return to symbiosis with the biosphere. As Carl Folk, a world expert on resilience, expressed it, we need balanced social ecological systems in tune with the resilience of the biosphere. This balance cannot be achieved just by rules. Voluntary actions are important. In Canada alone, we have millions of people making daily personal decisions that relate to the environment. Do I recycle? Walk to the store or drive? buy local food from the farmer's market, turn off lights when I leave a room, spray my lawn, or even have a lawn, go out for entertainment, or invite my friends over for a board game. Who would have thought that Dungeons and Dragons could help save the environment? Personal actions are important. We need something more intrinsic than rules, a culture, to guide our thinking and actions. Then we can have this balance. I have a confession to make. 15 years ago, I used to speak about a principle or social ethic of sustainability. Pretty academic, isn't it? But then Senator Ronan Dantec of the Loire-Atlantique district of France wrote about a culture of sustainability. A better term, culture of sustainability, and it has directed my thinking ever since. What is a culture of sustainability? It is a culture in which people act to reflect human environmental systems. We, you and I, can ignite a culture of sustainability with our actions. Our small flames providing warmth, comfort, and a signal to others. Let's talk about those words and their analogy to a culture of sustainability. First, warmth. In the woods, the fire's warmth prevents hypothermia. With our actions, warmth comes from knowing we're helping nature and people. Secondly, comfort. In the woods, the fire's psychological comfort prevents panic. With our actions, we feel calm because we're acting on important problems. Third, a signal. For the person lost in the woods, the fire brings people to them. With our actions, we attract people to sustainability. Those people can then light their own small flames so that a sustainable culture will grow. We can be confident that people will copy our actions because of a powerful human instinct, imitation. As Mark Pagel wrote in Wired for Culture, humans are hyper-imitators. Imitating and copying played an important role in our species' survival. You don't just need to take the word of this brilliant author. Think about the power of trends. About 6 or 7 years ago, men suddenly began wearing long baggy shorts. For no practical reason, cargo pants are practical, but because of fashion. And men's clothing stores right away filled their shelves with long baggy shorts. In sustainability as well, important trends are also occurring, such as walking and cycling to work. And this increases every year for mixed health and environmental reasons. Yet a person's decision to start walking or cycling was usually prompted by seeing others do it. When we take action for sustainability, others will copy us. This can change our city and other cities. I'll explain how this happens. First, because people follow trends and learn from each other, more people will practice sustainability in their everyday lives. Look at the top left picture. As this trend is noticed, it will ignite action by other key sectors. Governments, which try to give people what they want, will put sustainability in all their policies and programs. Businesses, which respond quickly to changes in demand, will produce more sustainable goods and services. And graduates in many fields related to sustainability will find greater demand for their skills and knowledge as governments, businesses, and NGOs take action on sustainability. This will create a very different culture. Let's dig deeper to understand this. What is culture? A sociologist or anthropologist might give you a complex definition. But let's use mine. It's simple. Culture is a system of understanding that a group of people share that shapes how they act and interact. How do cultures develop? By people living in ways that benefit them, ways that are shared and then broadly accepted. So cultures develop as people solve the challenges of life and share the solutions. Think about agriculture, a world culture that developed to address the challenge of hunger. Thousands of years ago, anthropologists say, Women in fishing villages grew vegetables while the men caught fish. Over the years, people improved techniques for growing crops and raising animals. As they shared these widely, a culture of agriculture developed around the world. This was a radical change from the hunter-gatherer culture that came before it. The culture of cities developed the same way. Countless innovations in work, building, transportation, and trade to address the challenges of living in large groups. A modern example is the culture of the open source movement. In 1991, Linus Torvalds created a computer operating system called the Linux kernel. He put it on the web and asked for help to perfect it. People around the world responded enthusiastically, and Linux became a great success. Open source really caught on. Today, the largest companies distribute patent-free software and ask for help to improve it. When Torvalds sent that spark across the internet, it ignited a new culture around the world. Yet the open source culture developed in the same way as agriculture, many people addressing a challenge and sharing the solutions. An even more recent example is the new cell phone culture, which is changing how people communicate and even how they think. But this culture also grew through individual actions and sharing. To summarize cultural change, it is based on individual actions, innovation, and sharing of ideas, and it can now change very quickly. Not only does culture change with innovation, it enables that innovation to happen. Robert Friedel, in his book Culture of Improvement, writes eloquently about how the culture of Europe in the last millennium evolved to permit the evolution of technology. He describes how culture in Europe began to accept and then anticipate change, leading to a great improvement in well-being. Both the Far East and the Middle East had more advanced technology at the start of that period. But people and events in Europe ignited cultural change that supported great technical growth. In the same way, a new culture can support innovations for sustainability. Here's an idea I presented at a science conference in 2019. A hurdle to the acceptance of something different is the attitude of people. If it conflicts with their habits, if they don't understand it, people will not accept it. It can take years for a needed innovation to be accepted and implemented. On top of that, funding sources are often not in line with new approaches. I know people who developed a new heat exchange system based on a gravel layer beneath the building. It worked in the lab, but they couldn't get funding for a demonstration model to get investment money. The last I heard, they were trying to give away their design, so at least someone might build it. But with a culture of sustainability, there will be a great appetite for innovative technology in this area. When society embraces sustainability, social acceptance and funding will both be easier. Those needed innovations can come on stream more quickly. All of this brings us to the question, what spark do we need to ignite a culture of sustainability? Research at the Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York, America's oldest research university, has found that when 10% of a population holds firmly to a belief, the rest of the population will follow. So if we can engage 10% of the people in a city in sustainability, a new culture will blaze. I mention cities here because that should be our initial focus for 3 reasons. 1. Decreasing the environmental footprint of a city will reduce impact over a broad rural area. To illustrate aspects of this footprint, here are 3 pictures from Ottawa and one from further away. Top left is a 5-acre forest plot rezoned to allow someone to build a single house. Top right, new buildings on some of Canada's dwindling supply of Class 1 farmland. Bottom left, the edge of Ottawa's precious greenbelt, which planners want developed. Bottom right, A photo from my son's apartment in Fort Worth, Texas, where shopping centers are expanding onto ranch land. The second reason to focus on cities is that decisions made in cities control activities around the world. Cities can export sustainability. This is London, England. Third, sustainable cities will improve quality of life for millions of residents. This is Ottawa's Beaver Barracks Sustainable Housing and a finalist in the World Habitat Awards. What about planning? Let's consider sustainable city planning, which has seen remarkable progress. This is the Hyllie area of Malmö, Sweden, where 9,000 new homes and workplaces relying on renewable and sustainable energy sources have replaced a former polluted industrial area, all of it directed by planning. There are examples in other countries too. Nantes, France, Denver, USA, Freiburg, Germany, Canberra, Australia, Vancouver, Canada, Copenhagen, Denmark, etc. Dozens of inspiring examples around the world of sustainable cities developed through planning. Unfortunately, most of the world's over 3,000 cities cannot become sustainable through planning alone. They lack elements needed for planning success: expertise, tools, resources, and time. Their planning systems are being overwhelmed by unsustainable growth. Fortunately, a resource exists in every city, rich or poor, that can be applied to sustainability: human capital, the energy and ideas of people. It is innovative and is the basis of cultural change. When applied to sustainability, human capital can ignite this new culture, even in poor cities, as I'll explain in a minute. Let me give you an example of the power of human capital. In the 1980s, I worked with Southeast Asian refugees in Ottawa and Eastern Ontario. The boat people, as they were called, came here destitute and suffering. My job was to help these communities to solve social problems. I knew the best resource for this was the people themselves. So in a first meeting, I would ask community leaders to describe the important needs of their community. Then I'd ask about resources. The answer was often, "We have nothing. We are very poor." But when I asked about people and their skills, what came out was a great list of abilities. Who was a good communicator, an organizer, a cook, who could build things, etc. Then I asked them what problem they wanted to address with those skills, and the brainstorming began. By the end of that first meeting, they knew what they wanted to do. By the end of a second meeting, the community had a practical project developed. It always worked, and the community built on this early experience. In a few short years, each community moved towards health, prosperity, and happiness, creating new cultures of pride and success. So I have seen firsthand how human capital can change culture. Let's use human capital as a resource for sustainability in every city. It can support sustainability where planning is weak and where it is strong. Here are two examples, both from Brazil. The favelas of Rio de Janeiro are places that developed without any planning. People put their homes wherever they could. Yet residents of favelas are now creating sustainability through cooperative action. They plant urban gardens, clean up and recycle garbage, improve housing, teach nutrition. An organization called Catalytic Communities was the catalyst for this. Human capital is a driver of sustainability in these poor areas. At the other end of the spectrum is Kuratiba, Brazil, the world's first modern sustainable city. Completely planned through the leadership of Mayor Jaime Lerner, a former polluted industrial city, Curitiba now attracts good investment and work. It is almost twice the population of Ottawa, yet it doesn't feel crowded and has an excellent bus rapid transit system. Here's an example of its planning. The city redeveloped some areas with rows of small shops, with living quarters for shopkeepers above them. Here people chose whatever business they wanted, a grocery store, a bicycle shop, a pharmacy. Businesses that provided livelihoods and services to improve quality of life. Very good planning provided the framework, but human capital, people, made the choices that contribute to Kuratiba's ongoing sustainability. How about some local examples of sustainability through human capital? What's happening in Ottawa? Here are a few examples. On the top left, a service club that provided play equipment for handicapped children in a local park, so these kids could enjoy the outdoors too. Notice the wheelchair ramp on the left. There are volunteers who harvest fruit and nuts from private trees and give them to the food bank. Volunteers who restore wetlands, providing important habitat for fish, frogs, and birds, even for beaver. Community groups recycling clothes and household items that people need. Volunteers who assemble monthly the Good Food Box to sell nutritious fruit and vegetables at wholesale prices. And bottom right, volunteers who have begun to plant 1 million trees in our city. What would you like to do? You see, it finally gets down to us, you and me. How can we ignite a culture of sustainability? It is surprisingly simple. Look for an area of sustainability that interests us. Habitat, local food, energy, waste, for example. Then find a related initiative to join, or work on our own. And when we're doing it, we talk about it to our friends, our family, our co-workers. We're lighting a fire of change that when it gets to 10% of our community, will continue to grow. Apart from saving the world, there are 3 personal benefits for us in doing this. First, working to solve a problem feels better than just worrying about it. Second, people with a sense of purpose do better in life. Third, being part of a team gives us a sense of belonging, even friendship. Let's go back to those 2 large global systems, the Biosphere and Humanity, just for a minute. Humanity has been locked into an arms race for hundreds of years, and it has produced misery. But an international race for sustainability will improve the human condition. This new culture, city by city, will create a symbiosis of humanity and the biosphere. And the biosphere will regain its ability to support all species, including ours. Can we believe in a culture of sustainability? We know the world has lost its way and needs to be rescued. We can each ignite the change needed. Start with a small action and share it with others to begin building human environmental systems in tune with the resilience of the biosphere. The culture of sustainability begins here.